Clean it with your tongue, she hissed, pointing at the muddy designer heel. Two identical 5-year-old girls, their matching faces streaked with tears, sat before her. The smallest reached for the shoe with trembling hands. Behind her, the woman's billionaire boss froze as he watched the scene unfold. What the cruel manager didn't know was that her boss was about to act, and that this moment of cruelty would unravel a 7-year-old secret, destroy her career, and reunite a man with the 2 daughters he never knew existed. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. Get away from the entrance, you little beggars. You're scaring our customers. The voice belonged to Heather Collins, the razor-tongued manager of Fifth and Mercer, the most coveted luxury boutique on Chicago's Magnificent Mile. The rain outside wasn't gentle. It hammered the sidewalk in hard silver stripes, bouncing off umbrellas and limo hoods. The twins huddled beneath the store's glass awning, 2 small figures in rain-soaked hoodies and scuffed sneakers, holding each other like shipwreck survivors clinging to the same plank. Inside, Fifth and Mercer was all light and mirrors, polished brass racks, alabaster floors, scent of jasmine, and new leather. Price tags hid behind silk like whispered secrets. This was where Chicago's elite came to be seen. And Heather guarded that image like a dragon squatting on treasure. The older twin, Aria, lifted her chin. "We're just trying to stay dry," she said, voice steady but thin. "Our mom is sick." Heather's lipstick, blood red and perfect, didn't dare smudge as her mouth thinned. "Your problems are not my problems," she snapped, shifting her weight so the awning's runoff wouldn't splash her camel cashmere trench. "This isn't a shelter. Move." The younger twin, Ava, tugged Aria's sleeve. "I'm hungry," she whispered. "Go be hungry somewhere else," Heather said. "And don't touch anything. Those shoes cost more than never mind. Just move." A gust slammed down the avenue, catching Ava off balance. She stumbled, reached to steady herself, and her damp sneaker smeared a dark crescent of street grit across Heather's dove beige heel. Heather's gasp was a blade. She yanked Ava's wrist, nails digging. "You ruined my shoes," she hissed, eyes glittering with a mean joy. "Clean it. With your tongue." Ava's breath hiccuped. Her gaze flicked to Aria, who shook her head, horrified. But hunger, cold, and fear pressed down like a hand on the back of Ava's neck, pushing her forward. Her lips trembled toward the leather. "Enough." The word cut through rain and traffic like a bell. Michael Grant stood at the threshold, tall, broad-shouldered, his slate suit sharp against the gray day. People knew his name from magazine covers and IPO rumors. The self-made billionaire behind Grant and Galen Retail, the quiet storm who turned failing departments into destination brands. He was also, as Heather kept reminding staff, the owner of this very store. His gaze fixed first on Ava's small wrist pinched white in Heather's grip, then traveled to the muddy smear on the heel, then back to Heather's face. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Heather, release her." Heather let go as if burned. "Mr. Grant, this is humiliating a child at my front door," Michael said, stepping between the girls and Heather. The rain crackled on the sidewalk behind him. "Is that our brand now? They're loitering. Our clients don't want." "You're finished." His tone was even, implacable. "Clear your desk. Security will escort you out in 10 minutes. The color flooded then drained from Heather's face. "Sir, I've delivered record quarters for this location. You can't." "I just did." He didn't look away. "Make sure HR has your severance paperwork by end of day. Leave your keycard." For a heartbeat, Heather looked as if she might argue again. Then she spun on her heels, the mud still staining one of them, and clacked across marble toward the back office, fury sizzling off her like steam. Michael turned to the twins and lowered himself to their level, rain flecking his hair. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Aria nodded a fraction, then shook her head, tears spilling fresh. Ava sniffled so hard it hiccuped. He offered his palm, not to take, but to show, empty, safe. "It's warm inside," he said. "And there's hot chocolate. Would that help right now?" Ava's eyes flicked to Aria. Aria gave the smallest nod. Michael ushered them in, passing shoppers who pretended not to stare, and employees whose eyes went wide then hurriedly neutral. He led the girls past crystal displays to a private corridor and into his office. Walnut desk, City skyline raining beyond the glass, a soft cognac leather sofa that swallowed small bodies whole. "Let's get you dry," he said, handing over plush towels from a credenza. "I'm Michael." "I'm Aria," the older girl whispered, clutching a towel to her chest. "I'm Ava," the younger echoed, voice barely there. "Aria and Ava," he repeated, as if trying the names on his tongue. Something in his chest pulled tight. The way Aria squared her shoulders before speaking. He'd seen that in the mirror before investor meetings. And Ava's eyes, wide, bright, searching, could have been lifted from a photo of his mother at 5. He tapped his intercom. "Lily, can you come in for a moment?" Lily Parker, his chief of staff, slipped through the door in under a minute. Neat bun, quick brain, quicker instincts. She took in the scene in one sweep. Damp twins, towels, the shadow in Michael's expression. "Please call the cafe," he said. "2 hot chocolates, extra whipped cream. And grilled cheese. Make it 3. And a blanket if we have one." Lily nodded. "On it." She paused at the door. Security asked if they should escort Miss Collins now. "Yes," Michael said. "And add a note to her file. Termination for cause." When Lily left, he pulled a wheeled ottoman close and Saturday. "Where are your parents?" he asked gently. The twins exchanged a look that made them seem older than 5. Aria spoke. "Mommy's sick. She can't get up. We asked the lady at the help desk for where to get food, and she said maybe someone here would help because rich people come here." A stone dropped through Michael's stomach. "What's your mom's name?" "Naomi Brooks," Aria said. "She cleans offices and people's houses. But she got, what the neighbor called real bad chest sickness." "Pneumonia?" Michael asked softly. Aria shrugged, but Ava nodded. "That's the word." A muscle in Michael's jaw ticked. Naomi. The name landed like a chord struck on a piano he hadn't played in years. He stared for a second at the rain beating the window before facing the girls again. "Do you live nearby?" "In South Shore," Aria said, pulling a folded paper from her pocket, soggy at the edges, address written in careful block letters. "Our neighbor wrote it down in case we got lost." There was a knock. Lily entered with a tray, steaming mugs crowned in white, sandwiches oozing golden cheese. The twins' eyes lit. Hunger made honest. They ate with the fierce focus of children too used to waiting. Michael watched them and time telescoped, 7 years collapsing into a handful of minutes. Naomi Brooks. He saw her again as she'd been. A 20-something temp working nights on a janitorial crew that serviced his early offices, smile bright enough to soften midnight. They'd kept it private, not a scandal, just theirs. Then one spring, after a small argument about nothing, she'd simply been gone. Contract ended, number disconnected. He'd told himself she'd moved on, and he should too. He had. Or thought he had. He studied Aria's set jaw, Ava's curious tilt of head, the way both girls held their mugs with 2 hands like they were cupping a fire. The math did itself. Naomi gone 7 years. The girls, 5 years old. He felt the ground tip under him, just a degree. He stood, smoothing his tie to buy a breath. "Lily," he said quietly, to the woman who could read his silences, "get child and family services on the line. Ask for a field worker to meet me here. Also, have Nick Rivera check availability. Private investigation priority 1. Lily's brows lifted. YPI. But she only said, "Yes, sir," and slipped out. Michael knelt again. "Aria. Ava, do you have anyone with you? A neighbor? A family friend?" "Mrs. Ortega next door checks on us when Mommy's working," Aria said. But today Mommy couldn't stand up. "Mrs. Ortega said we should go to the big stores because kind people there give away food sometimes." Michael inhaled slowly, fighting the urge to promise the world with a word. He had vowed never to let impulse steer his decisions again, not after deals where compassion got punished. But this wasn't a deal. These were 2 shivering little girls who might be. No. Focus on what is certain, he told himself. They needed safety now. Answers could come after. He offered them a fresh box of tissues and set a playlist low. Piano soft, warm air humming through the vents. The girl's shoulders gradually loosened. The shivers became sighs. The door cracked open. Lily ushered in a man in his 50s with a rain-slick coat and a clipboard. Mark Ellis, caseworker. He listened as Michael summarized the incident at the door, the twins' claims, the mother's name and possible illness, the address. "This is unusual," Mark said, rubbing a thumb along the clipboard's edge. "Ordinarily, We place the children in emergency foster care while we verify details and find the parent. Michael met his eyes. I can provide safe lodging and medical attention immediately. And I have reason to believe I know their mother. Give me 48 hours to locate her and verify any relationship. In the meantime, they stay under my supervision, with any oversight you require. That's not standard procedure, Mark said, almost reflexive. Neither is forcing a 5-year-old to lick a shoe, Michael replied, calm but steely. I'll sign whatever temporary guardianship forms you need and put my legal team at your disposal. These kids are not spending tonight with strangers. Mark looked at the twins, hot chocolate mustaches, eyes heavy but wary. Compassion softened his posture. 48 hours, he said finally. I'll document the arrangement. I'll also be conducting a home visit. You'll have full access, Michael said. Lily will coordinate. As Mark finished paperwork, Lily reappeared with a phone to her chest. Nick's on, she whispered. Michael took the call. Nick, I need Naomi Brooks found. Early 30s, used to work on a nighttime cleaning crew downtown 7 years ago. Last known area, South Shore. She has twin daughters, Aria and Ava, 5. Start at the address I'm sending. It's urgent. On it, Nick said. I'll have a team on the ground in 15. Michael ended the call and returned to the twins. I'm going to take you somewhere warm where you can rest, he said. Someone will make sure your mom gets help. Can we see her? Ava asked, voice tiny. As soon as it's safe, Michael promised. First, we make sure she has doctors. He signed the temporary placement agreement Mark slid across the desk. Lily gathered small hands into small coats. Michael draped his suit jacket over both girls like a tent as they crossed back through the store. Customers watched, curiosity trying to dress itself as discretion. In the front window's reflection, he saw a man who looked like a headline waiting to be written. Billionaire escorts homeless twins in a chauffeured SUV. Let them ride it, he thought. Let them try. They stepped out into the rain. The black Escalade idled at the curb, wipers beating time. The driver hustled to open doors, warmth spilled out. Michael buckled Ava in himself. Then Aria, double-checking the latches like he'd done it 1,000 times. As the Escalade slid into Michigan Avenue traffic, the city unfolded in slick neon and wet glass. Aria pressed her nose to the window. Are we in trouble? She asked. No, Michael said. You're safe. Is your house big? Ava asked, already drowsing. It's comfortable, he said, a helpless half-smile tugging his mouth. There's a view of the lake. And a fireplace. We've never had a fireplace, Aria murmured. Only a heater that makes clanking sounds. Michael's phone buzzed. A text from Lily. Security escorted Heather out. She's furious. Also, press sniffing around after bystander posted a clip. Do you want PR to prepare a statement? He typed back, silence for now. Focus on finding Naomi. Then, after a second, thank you. Another buzz. Nick, at address. Building manager says Naomi hasn't paid rent in 2 weeks. Neighbor confirms severe cough, fever, bedbound. Door locked. No answer inside. We're calling paramedics and requesting welfare check now. Michael's chest clenched. Faster, he told the driver. The city blurred. He glanced back at the girls. Ava had tipped against Aria's shoulder, thumb near her mouth, fighting sleep. Aria held her sister steady, eyes alert and old. He wanted to tell them everything. How their mom once laughed like summer rain. How she'd corrected his terrible attempts at Spanish with a grin. How he'd been furious at her for vanishing and more furious at himself for letting her go. How the possibility blooming in his chest right now was too fragile to name. Instead, he said, you'll like the elevator. It's very fast. They reached One Grant Place, his glass and steel home in Streeterville. The doorman didn't blink when Michael carried Ava in his arms, and Aria walked clutching Lily's hand. Lily had already messaged ahead. Upstairs, the penthouse opened in clean lines and warm wood, like a restless sheet beyond the windows. A fire sparked to life at Lily's voice command. Wow, Aria whispered, then immediately looked down, as if wonder was disallowed. It's just a place, Michael said gently. People make it home. He caught Lily's eye. Set up the guest room. Fresh sheets. And see if we can find kid pajamas in the staging closet. Lily was 3 steps ahead. Already sent someone to pick up clothes in a range of sizes. There'll be plushies, too. She crouched to Aria. Do you like bunnies or bears? Bears, Aria said, surprising herself into a small grin. Michael's phone lit again. Nick, paramedics breached. Naomi found conscious but extremely weak. Severe pneumonia suspected, dehydration. Transporting to Northwestern Memorial. I'll ride with them. We'll update with status. Michael exhaled, a sound that was almost a prayer. They found your mom, he told the twins softly. She's going to the hospital now. Good doctors. Can we go? Ava mumbled from his shoulder. Soon, he promised. Let them help her first. The girls bathed, more splash than bath, ate apples with peanut butter like they were feasting, and finally curled under a charcoal throw on the sofa, the fire reflecting in their eyes. Michael tucked the blanket around their knees, the way his mother once had for him when winter howled. Lily hovered at the doorway. Media is already churning, she said quietly. A clip's trending. Heather grabbing a little girl, you stepping in, or at least the silhouette of it. Comment sections are raging. I can draft a minimalist statement condemning the behavior and praising kindness without making it about you. Do it, he said, and call legal. If Heather tries anything, we're ready. And Naomi? Lily asked. Michael stared at the twins, then out at the storm, then back. I want a rapid DNA kit brought here first thing in the morning, he said, voice low. Not to make up my mind is made, but to make it official. If it says what I think it will, we start paperwork immediately. Custody, guardianship, medical authority, everything. Lily nodded once. Understood. His phone buzzed again. Nick, at hospital. Naomi stabilized on oxygen and broad-spectrum antibiotics. Fever high but responsive. She asked about her girls before she fell asleep. Michael closed his eyes, relief and sorrow colliding like waves. He opened them to two small faces watching him from the sofa. Is Mommy going to be okay? Arya asked. She's very sick, Michael answered honestly, kneeling so he could meet their eyes level. But she's with the best doctors. They're helping her breathe easier. We'll visit as soon as they say we can. Ava burrowed deeper into the blanket. Will you stay here? She whispered. Yes, he said. I'll be right here. The fire hummed. Rain softened against the glass. Somewhere below, Lake Michigan shifted, dark and patient. Above it all, in a penthouse built by ambition, two little girls fell asleep to the sound of a billionaire's heartbeat steadying itself to a new rhythm. One that had nothing to do with deals or markets, and everything to do with the fragile, fierce possibility that the past had come back, wearing pigtails and rain-wet sneakers. Michael stood and watched the twins breathe, his phone silent in his palm, his entire life rearranging itself in quiet increments, room by room, promise by promise. Tomorrow would demand decisions, PR wars, legal filings, hospital meetings, a difficult conversation with a woman he once loved. Tonight, it was enough to keep watch. Far across the city, in a condo that smelled like new plastic and envy, Heather Collins opened her laptop with shaking hands. She typed a name into a message thread. Cole Maddox, reporter at the Chicago Herald, famous for turning whispers into front-page wrecking balls. You want a story on Michael Grant? She wrote. I've got one. And with that, the fuse caught flame. Morning cracked over Chicago like a flashbulb, white, sudden, relentless. Lake Michigan glittered cold and hard beneath a sky wiped clean by the night's downpour. In the penthouse, the fire murmured low, a steady ember in the hush. Two small shapes were cocooned under a charcoal blanket on the sofa, hair sprung into sleep-tossed halos, mouths parted in the soft, snoring peace only exhausted children know. Michael had not slept. He'd sat in a dining chair dragged beside the sofa, jacket over his shoulders, eyes on the rise and fall of two tiny rib cages. Every ping from his phone was triaged. Hospital updates, Lily's PR drafts, Nick's field notes, legal's midnight memos. He answered what required answering and ignored what could burn without oxygen. The only non-negotiable task on his dawn list was simple and seismic. Make what his heart already knew official. At 6:02 a.m., the elevator whispered open and Lily stepped out with controlled urgency, hair still damp from a roofless shower. Behind her, a woman in scrubs rolled a hard-sided case the size of a small toolbox. Rapid DNA tech, Lily said quietly. Her name's Dr. Kiana Moss. She's discreet. Michael stood, scrubbing at the stubble on his jaw. Thank you for coming, he told the doctor. We'll do this by the book. Kiana's gaze took in the sleeping twins, the penthouse, the fire. She'd tested hedge fund heirs and military families, newborns and long-lost reunions. She knew when a room was braced for impact. "We'll need cheek swabs," she said. "You, both girls, and, if possible, the mother later for confirmatory chain. Results in 90 minutes. 90 minutes. After 7 years, 90 minutes felt like a lifetime in a split second. They worked with quiet efficiency. Arya woke first, blinking like a small owl, eyes sharpening as she recognized him. Michael kept his voice warm and gentle, explained the cotton swab, let her hold the sterile packet first. Ava woke to the tickle of the swab and giggled despite herself, a bright sound that cracked Michael's chest in two. Kiana sealed vials, scanned codes, handed Michael a clipboard to initial every label. Chain of custody, airtight. While the centrifuge hummed like a distant hive in the kitchen, Lily moved through the space like choreography. Coffee, oatmeal, sliced strawberries, a cartoon movie queued up on the frame TV, fresh clothes laid out on a bench, soft leggings, tiny socks with bears, hoodies that smelled like new cotton. The twins ate with the pure focus of growing bodies. Michael watched, memorizing. He'd missed first laughs, first steps, first words. He would not miss another first if he could help it. At 7:11 a.m., the DNA case beeped twice. Kiana checked the small onboard screen, then double-checked against a printout spooling from the portable printer. She didn't try to hide her smile. "Combined paternity index off the charts," she said. "Statistical probability of paternity is 99.99% for both girls." For a breath, the room had no floor and no ceiling. Just air, just light, just the sound of two little girls arguing affectionately over the last strawberry. Michael exhaled like a diver breaking the surface. "Thank you," he said, voice rougher than he expected. Kiana nodded. "Pro. I'll courier a sealed copy to your counsel and the hospital for the mother's file. I can also be available for any hearing if needed." Lily was already snapping photos of signatures, sending encrypted PDFs to legal. "I'll have Barnes and Keene draw up emergency guardianship petitions and a request for medical authority," she said. "We'll file ex parte this morning. The judge on call owes me a favor." "Use it," Michael said. He pocketed one copy of the result and turned toward the sofa. Arya watched him with a furrow between her brows that looked guttingly familiar. Ava swung her feet, sock heels grippy against the leather, oblivious to law or science or monolithic life shifts. "How about we go see your mom?" he said softly. "If she's awake, we'll say hello. If she's sleeping, we'll hold her hand." Two small heads nodded in tandem. That was all he needed to move the day like earth movers. The lobby paparazzi were a prediction Lily had made before sunrise. They were also an inevitability in modern Chicago. One viral clip and strangers scaled the city like ivy. 2 SUVs and a security team later, the twins rode sandwiched between Lily and a cheerful protection agent named Rosa, who produced stickers like a magician produces doves. Michael took the forward bench, shoulders squared, endless checklists ticking behind his eyes. Inside Northwestern Memorial, hospital air smelled like disinfectant and coffee and too many prayers. Nick Rivera met them in the atrium with a folder under his arm and fatigue, making 5 o'clock shadows out of every pore. "She made it through the night," Nick said. "Fever broke around 5. Oxygen needs are down a notch. They've got her on 4 antibiotics and fluids." She asked for the girls twice. Ava squeezed Arya's hand so hard their knuckles went white. Michael felt the urge to lift them both and run. The elevator was slow. The hallway was slow. Every step felt like a test he'd studied for and still felt unprepared to take. Outside room 804, a nurse with kind eyes and the no-nonsense cadence unique to veteran caregivers blocked the door with her hip and a smile. "2 at a time," she said. "Keep voices low. I'll let the physician know you're here." Michael crouched to the twins' level. "I'll go in with you first," he said. "Lily will be right here." They nodded, solemn under their new hoodies. He pushed the door open. Machines blinked softly. Sun braided itself across a blanket. Naomi lay propped against pillows, face thinner than memory but unmistakable. Cheekbones he'd traced with a finger once. A scar by her eyebrow, he remembered the story of a bike, a mailbox, age 8, bad steering. An oxygen cannula looped into her nose. Her eyes fluttered open at the sound of small sneakers. For a second she didn't see him. She saw only the twins, and everything else in the room went soft and irrelevant. Her arms lifted, weak, shaky, relentless with love. Ava launched herself first, then Arya, both trying to be gentle and failing that in the best possible way. Naomi breathed in their hair like oxygen and medicine combined. "You found a way," she whispered, voice a rasp wrapped in wonder. "Of course you did." Michael swallowed around a throat gone hot. Naomi's gaze climbed over two small shoulders and found him. Every year they'd spent apart threaded that look, and also something simpler. "Hello?" "Michael," she said, as if his name were a relief. Then a question hovered, unvoiced but undeniable. He nodded once. Lily had taught him the power of yes/no nods in rooms where words could overload a system. "We did a rapid DNA," he said softly. "I brought it for your file." He set the sealed result on the bedside tray. "I'm filing for emergency medical authority, so I can sign anything needed on your behalf until you're strong enough. If that's okay." Her eyes glossed with tears she wasn't yet strong enough to waste. "You always moved fast when it mattered." "I didn't move fast enough 7 years ago," he said, because dodging truth wasn't a luxury either of them could afford. "But I'm here now." A physician rounded the curtain, chart in hand, pleasantly surprised by the peaceful scene. "Ms. Brooks," she said, "fever's improving. We'll repeat labs this afternoon. You're still very sick, but stable is good news. The best prescription right now is rest and hydration." She glanced at the twins with a smile. "And maybe a little bit of supervised cuddling." Ava beamed like a small son. Arya sat carefully on the edge of the bed, hand tucked in her mother's palm, eyes hawk attentive to every metaphorical needle on every metaphoric gauge. "We'll stay nearby," Michael told Naomi. "I've moved the girls into my place temporarily. Social services granted 48 hours while we formalize." He left unsaid the part about press vultures and HR firestorms because a heart-fighting pneumonia didn't need extracurricular stress. Naomi's lids drooped. "Thank you," she whispered. "Rest," he said. "We'll be back after lunch." They left with a promise and a plan. In the hallway, Arya exhaled the breath she'd apparently held since the elevator. "She looked better," she said, sage as a board-certified clinician. "She did," Michael agreed, and the gratitude in his voice turned heads of two passing nurses. Nick pressed a folder into Michael's hand. "Background," he said. "I've got 7 years of breadcrumbs sketched. It wasn't running from you. It was running from something else." Michael opened the folder as they walked. Inside, building records, employment rosters, clinic visits, a police incident report with an officer's name circled in red. "Officer Brent Halvorson," Nick said. "Beat cop turned security consultant for a landlord in South Shore. 6.5 years ago, Naomi files a complaint. Unlawful entry, intimidation, insinuations he could make trouble go away if she was friendly. Case goes nowhere. The guy's brother-in-law worked dispatch. A month later, Naomi changes buildings, then again. Pattern of harassment. I think that, plus a pride the size of this city, kept her quiet until quiet became isolation." Michael's jaw flexed. Rage wasn't a flame, it was ice. "Find Halvorson," he said. "If he sneezes, I want to know what color." "He left CPD 2 years ago," Nick said. "Now he sells risk management to high-net-worth landlords and corporate properties. Guess who hired his firm to do seasonal loss prevention audits?" Michael didn't need to ask. Fifth and Mercer. Bingo. It would have been almost funny if it hadn't made him want to shatter glass with his bare hands. The same rot that had crawled under Naomi's door had been invited as a consultant to his. He ground down the urge to change directions, punch an elevator button, and fire 12 more people. Precision, not spectacle. Lily's voice in his head. "If Halvorson is tied to Heather, we expose both," Lily said out loud, because she always arrived 5 seconds before his rage detonated. PR has a statement ready condemning a manager's abhorrent behavior and announcing a third-party review of all vendor relationships. Legal is preparing letters to the Herald. Any defamatory insinuations get sued into ash. "The Herald?" Michael asked. Lily's phone buzzed. She turned the screen so he could see the email subject line. Inquiry. Allegations regarding Michael Grant, minors, and improper conduct. Cole Maddox, Lily said. Known for smirks in print form. Sources say Heather's trying to turn your intervention into something ugly. He's hinting you targeted minors for publicity. He's requesting comment by noon. Reply with, "We condemn cruelty. We protect children. We cooperate with authorities. Full stop, Michael said. Send a photo of the social services worker in my office if we need to. And loop in Mark Ellis for an official quote. Lily's fingers flew. Already asked him. He said, and I quote, Mr. Grant did everything by the book and paid for a hotel room when we had no foster slot. Don't print my name. My boss hates good press. Michael almost laughed. Almost. They returned to the penthouse by late morning through a different entrance, security widening their quiet net to block cameras without dramatics. Inside, the twins discovered the playroom that had previously been a staging room for architecture models. Now, as if conjured by Lily's willpower, it held a teepee with twinkle lights, a low shelf of books about brave girls and helpful bears, and a soft, ridiculous beanbag that swallowed children whole. For 15 minutes, the girls existed in simple present tense. Crayons, crackers, a new pair of fuzzy socks to argue over. Michael stepped into his office and dialed Jessica Barnes. We have DNA. File everything, he said. If we need to sit in front of a judge this afternoon, I'll sit. Already filed, Jessica said. Emergency guardianship hearing at 3 p.m. Judge Alvarez. I'll meet you there. Bring the social services agreement and the rapid DNA results. Done. He ended the call and caught his reflection. Tie loosened, bruise blue beneath his eyes. A man learning how big a heart could feel when it suddenly had to beat for 3. He almost didn't notice the second email from PR, clip number 2 trending. The video was grainier than the first. It had been shot through rain from a bus stop across Michigan Avenue, an hour after the initial incident. Heather, hair frizzing under a collapsing umbrella, was handing a manila envelope to a man in a dark coat, Cole Maddox. The caption a blogger had slapped on it was a gasoline match. Fired luxury boss gives receipts on billionaire's secret life. The comments section had already split into camps, wolves and shepherds, cynics and defenders, bots and humans. The internet had blood in the water, and blood was their favorite seasoning. Lily skimmed the thread, then clicked it closed. Noise, she said. We'll drown it out with facts later. Right now, we keep the tempo. Hospital check again at noon, hearing at 3, then back to Naomi before dinner. Make sure the girls eat and nap, Michael said. I'll write the judge a letter, personal statement, intent, capacity, plan. Write like a man who means it, Lily said. Because you do. He did. At 2:27 p.m., the twins napped mouth open on the beanbag while Rosa pretended to watch a nature documentary and in reality watched the door like a hawk. At 2:31, Michael knelt and kissed the tops of 2 small heads, because that is what fathers do, even if they're still learning the muscle memory, and slipped out with Lily, briefcase in hand. The courthouse elevator smelled like old coffee and weary hope. Jessica met them in the hallway with a bullet point brain dump and a stack of exhibits. The Social Services Temporary Placement Agreement, the DNA report, Nick's memo on Naomi's condition, letters from 2 neighbors verifying Naomi's care for the girls, and a notarized statement from the hospital physician confirming that emergency medical decisions might be required in the next 72 hours. Judge Alvarez read fast and listened faster. Mr. Grant, she said, peering over half moons. You are requesting emergency temporary guardianship of Aria and Ava Brooks, with authority to make medical decisions for Ms. Brooks if necessary, and you assert biological paternity confirmed by a rapid DNA test. Yes, Your Honor. Social Services? Mark Ellis rose from a bench against the wall, tie crooked, heart straight. We confirm Mr. Grant acted within guidelines, provided safe shelter, and is cooperating fully. We support the temporary guardianship pending a full hearing. Judge Alvarez scribbled, considered, measured the weight of a choice against the lives it would steady. Granted, she said finally, banging the gavel just enough to make it real. Review in 14 days. In the interim, any media harassment of the minors will be considered contempt of this court if instigated by parties named in this file. This courtroom will protect children when commerce won't. Lily exhaled. Jessica smiled tight. Michael said, Thank you. Like a man catching a rope thrown from a bridge. They left into a hallway that smelled less like old coffee now and more like a new kind of air. Jessica's phone buzzed. She glanced, then lifted her eyes, sharp. Heads up, she said. Maddox just published. The headline was designed to bruise. Billionaire scoops up homeless twins. Hero or opportunist? The subhead sharpened the blade. Sources allege Michael Grant has a history of controlling young women and a penchant for PR stunts. The sources were, of course, unnamed. The photos were the grainy bus-stop shot and a 10-year-old image from a charity gala where Michael had escorted a model who'd later built a wellness brand and a cult following. Lily's laugh was pure ice. "He thinks this is chess," she said. "It's checkers." And he just jumped into our double. Michael's phone buzzed again. "Nick, Halvorson spotted at a River North bar with a familiar face, Heather Collins. I've got audio. You're going to want to hear this." "What kind of audio?" Michael asked. "The kind where Halvorson says, and I quote, 'Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll make sure his perfect image gets a little mud on it.' That's what I do." He mentions a favor owed by Maddox. He mentions a private folder with security footage Heather copied from the store without authorization. Evidence. Leverage. Michael stepped into the elevator. The door slid closed on a city that thought it knew his story. The hospital lights hummed like restless angels. It was past 8 p.m., and Chicago's skyline blinked against the cold glass, 1,000 lights watching one story unfold in silence. Michael Grant strode through the corridor of Northwestern Memorial with the authority of a man used to boardrooms. But tonight, his power meant nothing. Every step was an argument with fear. The air reeked faintly of sanitizer and dread. Nurses parted for him, not out of fame, but because his eyes were burning with something they recognized, that desperate, helpless love only a parent could wear. Dr. Daly met him outside the step-down unit, clipboard in hand. Expression neutral but alert. Her oxygen levels dropped around 6, she explained. "We moved her for closer monitoring. The infection spread faster than expected, but she's stable now. She's awake, groggy, but coherent. We've adjusted her meds." Michael exhaled slowly, relief sliding through his spine like light through cracks. "Can I see her?" "Yes," Dr. Daly said, then paused. "But go gently. She's frightened. And tired. Don't bring the girls yet." He nodded. Understood. When he stepped into the room, Naomi Brooks looked smaller than he remembered that morning. Pale, fragile, but still with that quiet strength that used to steady him when the world went loud. Her brown hair was tangled against the pillow, her lips dry, but her eyes were fire and history all at once. "Hey," Michael said softly. Her lips twitched. "You again." He moved closer, setting a vase of white lilies on the side table. "Still me." She stared at the flowers, her voice faint. "You didn't have to come back." "I didn't," he said, voice firm but gentle. "I chose to." Her chest hitched as if fighting tears and coughs at the same time. 7 years, Michael. 7 years of silence. He pulled the chair closer to her bed. "And every day of those 7 years, I built things, stores, partnerships, towers, thinking success would quiet the noise inside me. It didn't. I looked for you once. Then I convinced myself you didn't want to be found." Naomi's eyes flicked up, pain flashing through them. "You don't understand what it was like. I didn't choose to disappear. I was forced." Michael leaned forward. "Forced by who?" She swallowed hard, eyes darting toward the forced stand as if looking for courage. "Heather. And the man she worked with. A security officer named Halvorson. The same one who harassed me when I lived in South Shore. I thought he was gone until one night. He showed up at my building. Said he knew about me. And you. Said if I didn't leave the city, he'd make sure your company and name got dragged through the mud. He showed me photos of us. From your condo. From the night you promised you'd tell your board about me." Michael froze, the air between them sharpening. "He had photos?" Naomi nodded weakly. "He said your competitors paid for dirt. He wanted hush money from you. And when I refused to help him, he turned on me. Broke into my apartment. Threatened to make me vanish. So I ran. I couldn't risk you losing everything." Michael's fingers curled into a fist. The thought of that man, that parasite, invading her home made every vein in his body ache with fury. "You should have told me, Naomi." "I was terrified," she said. "And when I found out I was pregnant, I couldn't call you. Not when you were fighting for that merger. Not when the media was waiting to tear you apart. I thought keeping them hidden would protect everyone." Michael closed his eyes. Instead, it broke everyone. "I know," she whispered. "I didn't plan on getting sick. I was supposed to find a way back, when I was stronger, when I could look you in the eyes without guilt." He reached for her hand, hesitating only a second before wrapping it gently in his. You gave me 2 daughters, he said quietly. You gave them life when you had nothing left. There's no guilt in that, Naomi. There's grace. Her lip trembled. Do they know? They know their mother's a fighter, he said. They're here. Safe. They want to see you. Tears finally fell from her eyes. Please tell them I love them. Always. I will, he said. But you'll tell them yourself. Tomorrow. She smiled faintly. You sound so sure. I've seen you beat worse odds than this, he murmured. I remember you walking into my office the first time with no resume and a broken heel, still telling me you'd make the floor shine enough to see my reflection. You've been proving me wrong ever since. Naomi laughed weakly, then coughed until the monitors blinked yellow. He stood quickly, pressing the call button, but she waved him off. I'm fine. Just don't leave again. I'm not going anywhere. The nurse entered, adjusted her oxygen flow, and gave Michael a pointed look. Time's up. He nodded, squeezed Naomi's hand once more, then stepped out. Outside the ward, Lily was waiting with a face full of urgency and her phone half raised. Nick just sent the recording. You're going to want to hear this. Michael's patience snapped. Play it. The audio was rough, voices layered over the low rumble of a bar. Heather's sharp tone cut through first, venom wrapped in vanity. He thinks he can fire me and walk away clean? He ruined my life, Brent. He embarrassed me in front of everyone. Then came a man's voice, low, smug. Halvorsen. Relax, sweetheart. You said you had footage from the store's security cams, right? That's gold. The media eats this kind of stuff alive. We leak it to Maddox, spin a story, billionaire with secret kids, fired manager with receipts. He'll look dirty in an hour. Heather laughed, bitter. And what about me? You'll get your money. And his reputation will burn. You want justice? That's how you get it. Michael's jaw locked, so tight it creaked. How long have they been planning this? Since the firing, Lily said. But Halvorsen's already sloppy. He bragged on a public channel. Nick traced it. We've got his company's email, timestamps, and 2 witnesses. Legal's prepping charges for extortion, defamation, and digital theft. Michael's voice was ice. I want him arrested before midnight. Nick's on it, Lily said. Also, the Herald just issued a retraction. Their editor called me personally. Said this source was unreliable. You scared them. Good, Michael muttered. Because I'm just getting started. Back at the penthouse, Rosa had just finished setting dinner when the twins came running, squealing when they saw Michael. Ava grabbed his leg first. Arya followed with a bear hug that nearly toppled him. Is Mommy better? Ava asked, eyes wide. She's fighting hard, he said, crouching to meet their gaze. She's very brave. Can we see her? Arya asked. Tomorrow, he promised. The doctors are making her stronger. The girls nodded, trusting him in a way that undid him completely. They sat at the dining table, grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, warm milk, and Michael found himself watching them instead of eating. Every smile, every giggle felt like oxygen. After dinner, while Rosa read them a bedtime story, Lily and Nick joined Michael in his office. The city glittered beyond the windows, calm above chaos. Halvorsen's in custody, Nick announced, dropping a file onto the desk. PD picked him up at his River North office. Heather's being interrogated. Maddox is pretending he never met them. Michael stared at the folder. Make sure Naomi's name doesn't end up in any of this. I don't care if you have to bury it under 10 NDAs and a federal gag order. No one digs into her life again. Done, Lily said. PR's narrative is already shifting. Billionaire rescues mistreated children, exposes internal corruption, launches child welfare initiative. Michael raised a brow. Initiative? Lily smirked. Yes. I announced you're creating a foundation under your company to fund education and shelter programs for underprivileged kids. It's already trending with the hashtag Grant Hope. Michael huffed. You just invented a charity out of thin air. You're welcome, she said. Nick grinned. Public's eating it up. Even Maddox tweeted apologies for misinformation. You're practically sainted. Good, Michael said. Then they'll believe me when I say the only hero in this story is a woman named Naomi Brooks. Morning broke like gold. Naomi's condition had stabilized. Her fever was gone. When the twins entered the hospital room that day, their tiny masks couldn't hide the joy in their eyes. Mommy, Ava cried, climbing onto the bed carefully. Naomi smiled, a smile that made the heart monitor blip faster. Hey, my angels, she whispered. You came. Arya hugged her gently. We missed you. Naomi's eyes fluttered shut for a second, drinking them in. You're safe now. Michael stood near the doorway, watching, not wanting to intrude on their light. For the first time in years, the noise in his chest went quiet. But peace, he knew, was temporary. Because when they left the hospital, a new storm was brewing. Outside the glass entrance, camera flashes exploded like lightning. Reporters shouted questions, names, rumors, accusations. Michael shielded the twins with his arm, guiding them toward the waiting SUV as Lily and Nick's security team pushed through the chaos. Mr. Grant, is it true you hid these girls for years? One shouted. Are you the biological father? Did their mother work for you? Michael turned once, calm, cold, commanding. My family is off limits. That's all I'll say. The crowd hushed just long enough for that word, family, to echo. Inside the SUV, the twins clutched each other. Naomi's nurse leaned forward from the seat beside her. They'll calm down soon, she assured. Michael glanced back. Let them film whatever they want. I'll own the story before they twist it. That night, back at the penthouse, the city lights poured through the glass like forgiveness. Naomi, now resting in the guest room, watched her daughters sleep in a real bed for the first time in years. The warmth of it brought tears to her eyes. Michael stood at the doorway, hands in pockets. They were out before the second bedtime story, he said softly. Naomi smiled faintly. You're good with them. He shook his head. They're good with me. I'm just catching up. Silence stretched between them, not awkward, but heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Naomi spoke. Why are you doing all this, Michael? After what I did after leaving. He stepped closer, his voice quiet but fierce. Because love doesn't expire with distance. Because those girls deserve everything. And because I refuse to let fear write the end of our story. Naomi looked away, tears glinting. You make it sound so simple. It's not, he said. But I've spent years building empires for strangers. This time, I'm building a home for us. Her lips parted, a soft laugh breaking the tension. You haven't changed. Neither have you, he replied. You still think you have to fight alone. Naomi turned toward him, eyes steady. And you still think you can save everyone. Not everyone, he said. Just you. Before she could answer, Lily burst into the doorway, face pale, phone in hand. Michael, we have a problem. What now? She turned the screen toward him. A live broadcast blazed across the screen. Heather, in a courthouse hallway, speaking to a swarm of microphones. Her voice was trembling but full of venom. He's not who he says he is. He used his power to silence people like me. I've seen what he's capable of. And those kids? There's more to that story than he's telling. The camera zoomed in on her face, mascara streaked, crocodile tears gleaming. Naomi's hand went to her mouth. She won't stop. Michael's eyes hardened. Then we end this once and for all. He grabbed his jacket. Lily, schedule a press conference. Tomorrow morning. Full transparency. No PR polish. Just the truth. Lily blinked. You sure? Michael's gaze flicked toward the twins' room, then back to Naomi. Positive. She wanted a war. She's getting one. But this time, in the open. The fire in his eyes was steady now, cold and bright. Because tomorrow wasn't just about clearing his name. The next morning dawned cold and sharp, wind slicing through the Chicago skyline, as if the city itself knew a reckoning was coming. Cameras gathered like vultures outside the marble steps of the Grant and Galen headquarters, their lenses hungry, waiting for the man the tabloids had painted as both savior and sinner. Reporters whispered predictions, microphones trembled in gloved hands. Some expected denial, others silence. But when Michael Grant stepped out of the black SUV, dressed in a plain gray coat, no tie, no entourage, just him, the noise around him died into stunned quiet. He didn't wait for introductions. He walked to the podium, eyes sweeping over the restless crowd. His voice came steady, low, but carried through the winter air like thunder held on a leash. He said he had seen the stories, the lies, the grainy footage edited by bitterness. He said people had called him everything from hero to monster in the last 72 hours, but all he cared about were two 5-year-old girls sleeping upstairs at the hospital last night, whispering about pancakes and cartoons. He said those girls were his daughters, born from love, not scandal, and that their mother had risked everything to protect them from a world too cruel to understand what she endured. He didn't hide behind lawyers or PR. He told them about Naomi, how she'd cleaned offices at night, how she'd raised 2 children alone, how fear had forced her into silence. He told them about the cruelty that had driven her away, the threats she had faced, the harassment buried under police reports that never saw daylight. He spoke of Heather's lies, of Halvorson's manipulation, of the kind of power that hides behind polished shoes and forged emails. Then his voice shifted, steel turning to flame. He said he wasn't here to beg for sympathy. He was here to demand accountability. He said every company, every brand, every executive who used silence as a shield would be exposed, starting with his own. Reporters tried to interrupt, shouting questions about Heather, about Maddox, about the video. Michael raised a hand and said the truth didn't need translation. He told them legal charges had been filed, that evidence of extortion and digital theft was already in federal hands, that justice was in motion. He said forgiveness wasn't the absence of consequence. It was the courage to confront the damage and rebuild better. Then he looked directly into the nearest camera and said the only story that mattered now was that 2 little girls would never be homeless again, never beg under a store awning, never be told they didn't belong. The applause started hesitantly, 1 voice, then 2. Then the crowd erupted into a roar that rolled through the plaza like a breaking wave. Michael didn't smile. He just nodded once, turned, and walked back down the steps, leaving the echo of his words hanging in the air like smoke and sunlight. By the time he reached the hospital that afternoon, the story had already shifted. News stations that once hunted him now called him the billionaire who spoke truth. Hashtags flooded timelines. People donated to his new foundation by the thousands. Heather's arrest footage hit the internet before evening. Her mascara streaked, wrists cuffed, shouting that she'd been framed. Halvorson's mugshot followed. Maddox published a formal apology, claiming he'd been misled. The same journalists who once doubted him were now begging for exclusive interviews. Michael didn't care about any of it. The noise meant nothing. What mattered was the quiet moment that awaited him behind room 512's door. Naomi sat upright in bed, color returning to her cheeks, eyes warm again. Beside her, the twins played on the floor with stuffed bears, building a tower of wooden blocks. When they saw him, they ran to him as if gravity itself pulled them there. He scooped them up, 1 in each arm, pressing his forehead to theirs. They smelled like sugar and soap and safety. Naomi watched, her hand over her heart, tears bright but peaceful. He set the girls down gently and moved to her side. He didn't speak, neither did she. They didn't need to. Everything that once tore them apart had already burned away in the fire of what they'd survived. The nurse came in quietly to adjust Naomi's 4. She told Michael the latest tests were good, that Naomi could be discharged in a few days. He thanked her, then turned back to Naomi and said the penthouse was too quiet without her laughter. She smiled at that, soft and shy, the way she had years ago before their world became headlines. The girls interrupted with excitement, showing him a crooked tower of blocks. Ava said it was their new house. Arya said it needed a roof. Michael laughed, knelt beside them, and laid his hand flat over the top block. He said roofs were easy, what mattered were foundations. That night, the 4 of them sat in the hospital room sharing a tray of takeout pancakes Naomi had requested. A symbol, she said, that everything could start fresh, even breakfast. The twins giggled through mouthfuls of syrup, and Naomi leaned back, eyes on Michael, whispering that she hadn't seen them laugh like that in years. He said that would never change again. When they finally left the hospital 3 days later, snow was falling soft and slow, blanketing the city in quiet forgiveness. Flashing cameras waited at a distance, but Michael didn't hide this time. He opened the SUV door for Naomi himself, helped her in, then lifted each of his daughters into their seats. The driver pulled away, and as the city lights slid past, Naomi reached for his hand. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of being seen. The penthouse was no longer a fortress of glass and solitude. It was alive. Children's laughter echoed down the hallways where silence once lived. The walls that had witnessed his loneliest nights now held drawings, toys, and a warmth he couldn't buy. Naomi's things slowly filled the spaces where trophies and awards had sat untouched. She moved with quiet grace through the rooms, still healing, still cautious, but stronger each day. Michael's foundation, Grant Hope, became more than a press move. He funded housing for single mothers, scholarships for abandoned children, and mental health centers across the city. The name Naomi Brooks appeared nowhere on the board by her request, but everyone inside the organization knew who inspired it. She would visit sometimes, speak softly to the young mothers who came through, telling them that hope wasn't charity. It was survival dressed in courage. Months passed. The city forgot its scandal and remembered its gratitude. Heather and Halvorson's trial filled headlines for a while, then faded into the background noise of justice being served. The twins started kindergarten, walking hand in hand, identical braids bouncing. On the first day, Michael watched them from the school gate, holding Naomi's hand. She looked at him and said quietly that she used to dream of this. Normal mornings, warm smiles, no fear. He said he used to dream of the same thing. He just didn't know their names yet. Evenings became sacred. Dinner as a family. Laughter spilling over half-eaten meals. Movie nights that always ended with both girls asleep on his lap. Sometimes Naomi would fall asleep beside them, her head resting against his shoulder. Those were the moments he never spoke about in interviews. The ones that meant more than any empire ever could. One spring morning, Naomi stood by the balcony watching the sunrise turn the lake gold. Michael walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. She leaned into him, her smile faint but sure. She whispered that she still had nightmares sometimes, about running, about losing them again. He told her nightmares couldn't live where truth had taken root. Down the hallway, the girls' laughter rang out as they chased each other through the living room. Naomi turned, tears glinting under the sunlight, and said softly that she couldn't believe they'd come this far. Michael said miracles rarely look like lightning. They look like children laughing in safety. When he kissed her forehead, it wasn't the desperate kiss of a man reclaiming the past. It was the quiet vow of one who'd finally learned what home meant. And as the morning light spilled over all four of them, father, mother, daughters, the story that began in rain and humiliation found its ending in warmth and forgiveness. What started under the awning of a store ended in a home built not of marble or glass, but of love strong enough to survive every storm that tried to break it. The city would tell the tale for years. The man who turned a scandal into salvation. The woman who hid in fear but rose again. The twins who reminded everyone that kindness, once lost, could still be found. Michael never cared about the legend they wrote. He only cared that when his daughters called out, "Daddy," the word finally meant forever. And that's how one man's world fell apart just to bring his family back together, proving that sometimes, life's cruelest storms are just disguises for miracles waiting to happen. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the bell, and tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Because more emotional, powerful, life-changing stories like this are coming. And trust me, you don't want to miss the next one.